Butterflies twisted in Eliza's stomach as she worked her way through the maze of hallways that comprised the west wing of Thistlewood Manor. She loved the family estate, but the size of it could be wildly inconvenient when one was trying to get somewhere in a hurry. Thankfully, Eliza knew the place intimately. She had spent her entire childhood exploring every nook and cranny, and a lovely byproduct of that, she realized now, was that she knew every imaginable shortcut hiding within its walls. She took advantage of every bit of that knowledge today as she raced through each hidden passageway before finally arriving in the grand foyer. She then raced across the intricate marble floors and past the spiral staircase. Almost there, she thought, as she wrapped her hand around the brass doorknob of the French doors, prepared to step outside into the family garden. But just as the doors began to creak open, she heard another sound. It was Parkins, the family butler. "Lady Eliza," he called out. She stopped in her tracks. "I'm so glad I caught you," Parkins said. Eliza turned to face him as he came down the stairs, doing her best to give him her full attention. Much as she hated the idea of being delayed, she hated the idea of making Parkins feel unimportant far more. "The National Gallery is hosting a new exhibit featuring the work of someone named—" Parkins paused for a moment and pulled a note out of his pocket. Eliza did her best not to let the additional delay make her twitchy. "Ah, here it is. Vasily Kandinsky. Have you heard of him?" Eliza nodded. She was reasonably certain everyone even remotely related to the art world had heard of Kandinsky. He was quickly establishing himself as one of the most important painters of the 20th century. Eliza had never seen his work in person, but she had seen pictures of it in a great number of books. At first she hadn't been quite sure what to make of it, but she had quickly fallen in love with the way he used colours as though they were words, and his paintings somehow felt like poetry. She didn't always understand precisely what he was doing, but she understood what he was feeling, and that seemed to her to be some sort of magic. "Your father was reading about it in the paper this morning," Parkins continued. "It appears as though there's some sort of opening night gala, where you can not only see the works, but also meet the painter, and Lord Montagu was wondering if you might like him to request a ticket." Yes, please tell him that would be absolutely brilliant, Parkins. Thank you." "You're welcome," Parkins replied, at which point Eliza felt safe enough to turn back to the French doors. But then, "As long as I have you—" Eliza sighed as she turned back around. She loved Parkins dearly, and she always enjoyed talking with him, but at that exact moment, she had somewhere else that she very much needed and very much wanted to be. "René was wondering about supper tomorrow," Parkins continued. "Do you anticipate being here for that? Apparently he found some aubergine that—" "Yes," Eliza interrupted. "I'll be there. Also, Lady Mercy was wondering—" Not again, Eliza thought. She appreciated how conscientious Parkins was in delivering every imaginable message. But goodness, she did not have time for yet another inquiry at that moment. Not when every fibre of her being was yearning to get to the garden. "I'm so sorry, Parkins," Eliza interrupted, unable to wait a moment longer. "But I'm afraid I really must be going. I have important business in the garden, but I shall connect with my sister later, I promise." "Important business in the garden?" Parkins asked, perplexed. Eliza couldn't blame him. The garden was not the sort of place where important business was done. She should have covered better. "Yes, there's some... Well, you know what they say about people who don't harvest their strawberries by the end of May, Parkins," she replied, hoping he wouldn't think too deeply about that sentence. "Can't say that I do, miss," he replied with a smile. Parkins was on to her. Eliza was all but sure of it, but she also knew he was far too polite to ever say anything about it, so her secret was safe with him. "I'll see you later, Parkins." "Of course, Lady Eliza. Good luck with your important business," he replied with a smile. If Parkins was the sort of person who winked, Eliza felt certain he would have done so just then, and she felt her face flush with embarrassment at having been caught, but her thoughts didn't stay there long. They were already out in the garden.